Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial series on top Java interview questions. So my last video was about the comparable where I have explained uh, the introductions about the comparable and comparator. Then I have created the comparable in Eclipse. So if you have not seen that video, please check that. Also, I will give the link for that video in the description of this video. So in my last video, I've created this class, employee class, and I was sorting based on the name of the employees. So I have created a test class also. So in this video I'm going to explain about the comparator, which is actually used for the sorting purpose also, but using comparator we can do different type of sorting. So let's say we want to sort any collection based on this employee name or ID. So we want to sort based on name and ID both. So using comparator we can do that. We have to create uh, one class for each type of the sorting. So let's do that. So using comparable we cannot perform that because comparable is just used for the one type of sorting. So here we did for the name. So to sort based on other properties, let's create a class as ID employee ID comparator. Okay, so in this class we need to implement comparator. Okay, so here we can pass employee and employee. Okay, so this comparator have compare method, so that we need to override. So let's override it. Okay, so to sort it based on the ID we just need to, let's keep some relevant name for these variables, e1 and e2. So we can directly return e1 dot get id minus e2 dot get id. Okay, so this function will return uh, 0 or positive or negative value based on the id of the employees, and based on that it will sort the values. Okay, so we can, yep, so we can now test this. We have a test class. So here let's comment this out. Okay, or we can reuse this, like we have three objects of the employee, and to sort this based on id we have to provide the class name, that is our employee id comparator. Okay, okay, so here we need to pass the list, which is our employee list. Okay, so yeah, we can test it now. Okay, okay, so let's run this. So it should sort the employee objects based on ID. Yeah, so our first ID is 11, then 10 and dollar, so it is now sorted in order. So if we add one more employee objects, let's say we have employee 4. Okay, so okay, so let's give some name to this object. Say it is E4, and so the ID is 100. So let's test this now. Okay, so we need to add this into the employee list as well. So it is E4. Okay, so let's run this. Yeah, it is sorted. So now let's say we have one more field into this class. Let's say we have a employee ID. So let's create getter and setter for this as well. Okay, so let's add the getter and setter, and we need to add a constructor also to set the values. So here we can pass string employee ID and this dot employee ID equal to employee ID. Okay, so now same way we can create one more comparator. As we have created employee ID comparator, so we can create one more class where we can sort based on the employee ID. Okay, so employee ID comparator 2. Okay, so here also we need to override the equal to compare method, and then based on the employee ID we need to get employee ID. So we have employee ID field. Okay, get employee ID. So here we need to use compare to employee ID. So now this is our third field into employee class. So based on this field we can also sort this. So let's create some objects into employee list. So let's create, so here we need to pass employee ID as a string. So let's say we have employee 2 as a ID. Okay, employee 1. Okay, 1 2 3. Okay, let's change it to add the second parameters, and here we need to add. Okay, so can add the values to same objects. We don't need to initialize them again. Okay, and here we can print the third field, which is e dot get employee ID. Okay, so here we need to change it to employee ID comparator 2. Okay, let's check this. This is okay, employee ID comparator 2. Okay, so let's run this now. Okay, so it is sorted based on the employee ID, the third field that we have added just now. Okay, so in this way we can sort, let's say we have one more field here, employee A's or n number of fields, so we can create n number of comparator and we can sort any custom objects based on different types of the properties of objects. So that we can do using the comparator. Using comparable we cannot achieve that. So let's talk about some of the differences of the comparable and comparator. So these are the differences. Okay, so the first difference is comparable interface is used to provide single way of sorting, where comparator interface is used to a different way of sorting. Yes, so uh, in my last video I have used comparable where I was able to sort the employee object based on the name. So here using comparator I'm able to sort based on different ways of different fields. So that is the first difference. Second difference is for using comparable class need to implement it, wherever for using comparator we don't need to make any change in a class. Yes, definitely. So as if you see the logic of comparable that we have created in our employee class, in the employee class I was implementing comparable interface. So here I have implemented comparable, so I did changes into the employee class so to use comparable. But using comparator I have not done any change. I have created just new class to perform the sorting. So that's the second difference. Okay, so the third difference is comparable interface is in java.lang package, where comparator is in java.util package. Okay, so last difference is we don't need to make any code change at client side for using comparable. Array.sort or collection.sort method automatically use the compare to method of the class. Okay, yeah, so if you see the logic of comparable, uh, so in sorting test class we don't need to put comparable, we here for the comparator we need to put the particular class which have created for the comparator and the list. But for comparable we don't need to put any, we don't need to change, do any change for the during the sorting. So that's what the for comparator client need to provide comparator class to use compare method. So these are the some of the differences of comparable and comparator. So you can use any one of them based upon the requirements for the sorting any custom class in Java. So thanks for watching. In my next video I will cover other Java interview questions. So see you next video. Bye bye.